the back of the head and not feel anything. So he's like, oh god, that yeah. And this guy, this is where you animate the anticipation. He's getting ready to throw a very powerful punch. This is where you're going to want to put in your easing. This is where you're going to want to put on the emphasis. Finding it a bit hard to talk, but this is where you put on the emphasis for the stuff you want. This is where the easing comes into play. So this is the anticipation. He's leaning back even more. And yeah. So we'll see, he sort of leans back. This guy is still reacting, not focusing on the guy behind him. And now he's still easing, sort of, but he's starting to come forward for the punch. Still leaning back, anticipating. This guy is still reacting. But now he starts to take a step forward. Like I said, always keep them moving in a fighting animation. It helps keep it entertaining. Now in this frame, you're going to want to start easing into the attack. He's going to start leaning forward, bringing this arm forward, that arm down a bit to protect his rib cage. This guy, he's falling over. Yeah. So you should end up with something like this. And you can see that that guy, he's anticipating it, leaning back, then wham, he's about to punch the guy. And that guy's like, ah, leaning forward. Okay, now, we go. We're about halfway there, so you're doing good if you're keeping up with all this. You can see he's leaning back, about to punch. Now in this frame, you start using a bigger spacing, he's bringing this arm around. And then in the next frame, bam. Now, you'll notice I've added screen shakes. They help display the power. So what I do is once I've actually animated the animation, okay, let's see. Okay, so I might want to add a shake for this landing, for example. Okay, what you do is you edit them in. Otherwise, it's crazy as hell to try animating it. Oh yeah, I forgot to make the ground. But yeah, if you try animating it with the ground shaking, like, it's really hard to keep the foot placement. It just makes it twice as quicker doing it this way, editing it in later. See how it like goes back to where it was already at. See, like, you don't need to move it all back into place. Now, anyway, he's punched the guy. This guy's back sort of bent. It's not fully like this because your back can't bend like that. Unless you want to kill the guy, you know, it's just impossible. Now, he isn't really bent down on his knees yet because he hasn't had enough time to. So his leg's sort of like that at the moment, and this leg's sort of coming up over. In the next frame, this is where he falls to the ground. His leg is sort of straight because this is where all the momentum is. It's not down here, so you're going to want to keep these legs sort of straight, but, you know, not stiff as a board. But, and his arms, they're going back. This, yeah. Now, on the purple guy, he's standing, like, his legs straight, and he's leaning right in order to show the power. His arm is following through. Now in the next frames, he's still following through. You see the origin keeps going with the same sort of spacing. It's keeping it constant. that helps it not to look stiff. But his upper body, meanwhile, is showing the power by still moving forward into the momentum. And this guy, he's basically flat on the floor like that. In the next frame, his momentum most of his momentum is up here now, since this part is landed down. So you're not going to want to make him bounce up like this or anything, because he's fallen down like that. And his legs are pretty much going over the top of him. And yeah, that's all there is to it, really. Now we'll go on to 5. Now, like I said, in a fight, everybody keeps moving. You're going to want to keep them moving, like, really fast. Now, see how the spacing is still constant, still constant, still constant, but then, bam, he transforms all of that momentum into his leg. So you won't put any easing into that, since it's so easy for him just to kick it out like that because of the momentum already in his body. Now his arms sort of come down a bit. I haven't really used them much because, like I said, it's to go with the momentum. The upper body is still sort of down like that, but then it starts coming up. And this back leg, meanwhile, the momentum transfers into this. It doesn't just stop there, then in the next frame stop there, like it transforms, like, because if I made the weight not like keep going there, then it would do it up here, and you'd end up like this frame he'd be like this, then the next frame he'd be like this, meanwhile his leg is still like that, and it's gonna look weird. So I sort of just kept his legs with the momentum. So he's like kicked the guy, and now he's getting into the landing. He's bringing back his guard again, and there he is in the stance. He's sort of standing back. And this guy, on the other hand, it's all to do with the momentum. Most of the momentum is up here, so of course his head is bent the most. The rest of his body is sort of just on the floor. Now in this frame, like, you really got to focus on the upper body more than the legs, since that's where he got kicked and where most of the momentum's at. So his upper body sort of eases. You'll notice his upper body slows down, like it's not so fast anymore once it gets to here. But at the same token, his feet, you can see that they've made this much spacing, but in this frame it keeps the spacing in the feet. Same here. And same there, because that's where all the momentum is transferring. Since he's pretty much lost control of his legs, he's just falling onto the floor. And then you animate him bouncing. It's pretty simple. But yeah, if you want to animate a good combo, you keep the momentum going.